Thank you for being here, for finding back from your lunch break. It's not self-evident. So, we talked about chakras, we talked about Svadhisthana Manipura chakra and exercises for Manipura chakra and the importance of Manipura chakra, and yes, which is somehow clear. And now we want to come to the really important chakra. So the really important center for self-experience, or the door through which you can access your internal world, because this is what the chakras are. You know, there are doors through which you can step, so to access the interior world in a way. You know, Muladhara is the interior world of power and strength, pure being. Svadhisthana is the interior world of vitality, creativity, force, pleasure, magic, magical power. Manipura is the interior world to the mind, to force, determination, clarity, control, heroship. And the next one is the heart. The most important place of all, of course. So let's have a look what the Chakra Nirupana, not the highest reference for the studies on the chakra, but let's just have a look at it, what at least it says about the heart. Are you ready? Curious? Very good. Above that He's saying above Manipura. Above that in the harem is a charming lotus of the shining color of a banduka flower with the 12 letters, he names the letters, of the color of vermilion placed therein. It is known by the name of Anahata, which means the unstruck sound or the sound of Shabda Brahman, and is like the celestial wishing tree, bestowing even more than the supplicant's desire. The region of Vayu, beautiful and with 6 corners, which is like unto the smoke in color, is here. Meditate within it on the sweet and excellent pranava bija, yam, grey as a mass of smoke. This is like relates to the element of Vayu. With 4 arms and seated on a black antelope. And within also meditate upon the abode of mercy, the stainless Lord, who is lustrous like the sun bird. It's written sun, but it's sunbird because it's Hamsa. And whose 2 hands make the gestures which grant boons and dispels the fears of the 3 worlds. Here dwells a goddess. Then he describes the goddess, who is the consort of this of the Lord of the element of air. The Shakti, whose tender body is like 10 millions of flashes of lightning, is in the pericarp of this lotus in the form of a triangle. Inside this triangle is the Shiva Linga, known by the name of Bana. This linga is like shining gold, and on its head is an orifice, minute, as that in a gem. He is the resplendent abode. He is the resplendent abode of Lakshmi, the goddess of bountifulness. He who meditates on his heart lotus becomes the Lord of speech and is like Ishvara, God. He is able to protect and to destroy the worlds. This lotus is like the celestial wishing tree, the abode and the seat of Shiva. It is beautified by the Jivatma, which is Hamsa, which is like unto the steady tapering flame of a lamp in a windless place. The filaments which surround and adorn its pericarp, illumined by the solar region, charm. Okay, then he's just saying, if you open this lotus, you become the greatest of all yogis, and all the women love you, and so on. How it usually continues. So there is this. What we read here in the what seems to be special when you read here, he's basically saying, if you sum it all up, well, actually, there is the element of air inside the lotus in the heart. And it is named after the unstruck sound, which is Shabda Brahman. You know, it is a sound that is made only without 2 objects striking another. So without clapping the hands, the sound of 1 hand. We come to this later. So it's the sound that is not, that is without a cause. Which sound is without a cause? That sound that is like a rushing river without beginning and without end. This is also what the Vijnana Bhairava writes, you know. The Vijnana Bhairava says, and that sound that is in your heart that is just like a rushing river without beginning and without end. If you as a practitioner concentrate on that sound, you become one with that sound that is, in the end, the divine. So the divine is that sound. That is the eternal sound. And he's saying it, what is that sound? Shabda Brahman. So it is Brahman in form of sound. I said before, it's Anahata. So the second A is long, Anahata. Many people say Anahata, but that's not true. Like, you know, in Sanskrit, it's a little bit important to sometimes think about the right. I'm also struggling with this, of course, but the right. At least when you read Devanagari transcript, that's the English transcript from the original Sanskrit language. Then you see which letters are to be pronounced long. Yeah. And Anahata means Ahata is hit. You know, Anahata is unhit, okay, which basically means unstruck. That's what it means. And unstruck means without cause, whereas Anahata would mean unwashed or not uninjured. And this is not the right meaning, of course. So, Anahata. So where does this come from? The unstruck. It comes from, you know, you could say every state of consciousness that or the state of consciousness through which you experience the world, or the energy through which you experience the world, that is founded on a certain stage of consciousness, so that is basically founded on a certain range of experience about reality. This is what is meant by consciousness. That is founded on a certain consciousness. That experience has different qualities. Let's say the experience of Manipura, or the experience when the self, Shiva, your soul, your individual being, your individual soul, would experience the world, then from the perspective of Manipura, you would experience the world as a pleasureful place when you succeed, and as a painful place when you fail. You see? And from the perspective of Svadhisthana, if yourself, your Shiva, your individual soul, rests in Svadhisthana, you experience the world as a pleasureful place if that is present what you desire, and you experience fear and terror in the absence of it, or in the presence of that what you hate. So this is like on the level of Svadhisthana. So there is pleasure and pain on all of these levels. But this pleasure and pain, it has certain dependencies. You see? Your body feels pleasure when it is nice and warm, and your body is painful when it is sick or hurt. Svadhisthana is in pain when you feel rejected. And Svadhisthana is in pleasure when you feel kissed and hugged. Manipura is in pleasure when you dominate, and it is in pain when you're dominated. And then Anahata, and here it gets interesting because Anahata is said to be twofold. So Anahata is said to have a lower and a higher part. Let's only speak about the higher part for now. The lower part is like the untransformed form of the element of air, okay? But the higher form of Anahata is that state in which, out of self-sufficiency, you reside in happiness. And this is what is meant with unstruck, independent. You could also translate it as an independent state of energy, or an independent state of experience. Unlike the other chakras, of which you now examples, the experience that you have through Anahata is an experience of self-sufficient pleasure, self-sufficient joy. That's why you can love everybody, no matter how evil that person is. And that's why the rain falls down on everybody, no matter if the people are good or bad. And that's why that is unconditional love. Unconditional love is the unconditional river that always flows, and that has always flowed, and that will always flow down into this world to everyone. It is that is independent. You know, you're not asking, do you deserve that love? This love is just there. The question is if you are open enough to take it. But it's always here. The question, who you are, is not important. It is above the individual you, it is above Manipura. Manipura is the abode of the individual power. It's above individual power. Your individuality is not important. It is the place for which you go from the sphere of individuality to the sphere of what is supreme individuality, what is non-individual, what is, you could say, not collective, because it's not a sum of singular points, but more that what is where the individual in its importance in a way is dissolved away. And when you're everywhere and when you're everything, then somehow you can give everything everywhere. So Anahata, the self inside Anahata, is radiating an energy or radiating a state of being that is free from the chain of cause and effect. It is a state of being that does not ask what has been before in order to give what is now. It always gives what is now, always to the fullest, in independence to what has been before. There is no cause for the effect. You're not asking if this joy is deserved. This joy is just always here. Love, true love, is always here. So it's freedom from cause and effect. So here it gets very interesting. This is the principle of forgiveness. If you do not being able to forgive means to take revenge for every mistake that has been done before. And history shows us that this always ends up in endless circles of violence. Forgiveness means to literally break the chain of cause and effect. And forgiveness is the virtue of the heart. Forgiveness is not the virtue of Manipura. Forgiveness is that virtue for which you let go and break the chain. You say, you do not need to pay your debt. Your debt is just forgiven. Don't pay it, it's okay. This is the heart. You do not need to even apologize. You're just loved, just let go. This is what the heart is, and this is the way you break the world. This is the way you break the chain of karma. You cannot break the chain of karma with undoing what you did. You can just forgive. You can forgive yourself and forgive the world. And here it comes. So somehow it is the place through which you can ascend through the chain of all your sins, and where the chain of the sins of the world can be forgiven. Because after all, there are no sins. And in the heart you understand, they're just always forgiven. And what is forgiven is not a sin. So the heart forgives everything, and everything is subdued. Everything is undone, because the heart is eternal. And that's why inside the heart there is the eternal sound. Aum. This is Shabda Brahmani. Yam is just a feature of the element of air, but Aum is the very, very intimate sound of the heart. Also recited Om. So this is the sound in the heart. And this sound in the heart is who? It's Hamsa. Now we had this already. Hamsa is the sunbird, and Hamsa is the one who is traveling in between the gross and the subtle, who is traveling in between ever-expanded consciousness and completely contracted consciousness. It is the individual soul. It is the sunbird, and he lives in the heart, and he travels with the air, with the breath. And with every out-breath, it is Ham, and with every in-breath, it is Sa. And it travels through the heart. And the element of air is depicted to be six dots that are of smoky gray color. That's where it comes from, the element of air. Somebody's listening to nice music out there. I like it. So, you see that the heart is therefore the place, because it is the place of the unstruck sound. That's why it's the place that surpasses causality. That's why it is the place that is forgiveness. And that's why somehow it is the place with which you can access the higher worlds. So when you go through the heart, you go into the paradise. When you walk through your heart. And the heart is that way, that is the pathway to transformation. There is no transformation without the heart. The heart is really, it is that door through which you have to walk in order to transform. And I think this says everything, Somehow, if you want to have transformation yoga, you have to go through the heart. If you want to have transformation meditation, you have to go through the heart. If you want to have transformation in asana practice, you have to go through the heart. If you want to have transformation in your relationship, you have to go through the heart. Because the heart is the only place through which the chain of causalities can be broken. If you want to heal your own monkey mind, you have to go through the heart. Because the monkey mind cannot be healed on the couch of the psychotherapist by just talking about your path. He can just be healed by the power of forgiveness. That you just let go of what you have been in the past and start something new. Because you cannot subdue one chain of cause and effect with another one. You can just break the chain of cause and effect once for all. And why is there? He's saying, well, and there is the wish-fulfilling tree. He says it twice. And there is like the celestial wish-fulfilling tree that fulfills all the desires. What is this wish-fulfilling tree? This wish-fulfilling tree is that place inside of you from which the world becomes true. We assume that everything you experience in a very intimate way is your wish. Because since the whole world is a projection of your own consciousness, in Tantra we have this claim to say that actually everything is founded on consciousness. Since you are that consciousness, everything is founded on consciousness. And you experience the whole world through your own consciousness, and the truth is there is nothing in the world, not even something you have heard about the world, or something you have thought about the world, something you have deducted about the world, anything that is not the world because it entered your consciousness. So literally, your consciousness is the world. So from out of you, the world emerges, at least for you, definitely. Somehow, nobody can reject it. Because even all the mental constructions that explain you that there must be an objective world outside of you, which others can verify, this world only exists because in your consciousness, you for yourself verify the potential existence of others who verify any objective reality. So it is still you who is verifying that. See, everything goes back to you. Nobody can prove you that there's really something outside of you. And even all that scientific theories that explain you that there must be some kind of law outside of your perception are only verified through your own understanding and your own consciousness. Somehow. So it's always your consciousness that is the world. So in any case, the point now is that the world emerges from you. And here in this text we have the secret where the world emerges from your heart. Those wishes which are in your heart are those wishes which will become true. Those desires you carry in your heart are those desires which will become true. And this suffering that you carry in your heart is that suffering that you will experience in the world. And the pleasure you carry in your heart is the pleasure you experience in the world. And the whole world takes the shape of your heart. This is what is inside here. But why must it be like this? Well, because Shiva is in the heart. The wish-fulfilling tree is Shiva. And who is Shiva? The flame on a windless place. A steady flame like on a windless place. So it's the eternal light. And it is consciousness. Shiva is consciousness. Consciousness is there. And yeah, you know, you do not need to picture it like this, but let's say it is the very you know, it's like this. My fingertips are also in my perception, somehow me, but they're a little further away from me. And my arm, you know, is also somehow me, but it's a little further away from me. But when I feel and when I think, there is this central axis of my body in which I feel and I think, and it's a little closer to me. And my very base is a little further away from me than my genitals, let's say. But my genitals are a little further away than my belly. And you know, my head, the top of my head, is a little further away from me than my forehead, but my forehead is a little further away from me than my throat. And maybe the closest place to me, what I actually am, you know, is very much here in the middle. And that's why I say, the people say, me. They don't say, me. I mean, okay, they may say me, but they're not saying, me. You know? They say, me. And they mean they're here. And then you can go even deeper here into the me, and then you can rest in the cavity of your heart. And in the very cavity of your heart, there are you. That is the real you. And even deeper and deeper and deeper into this you can sink, till you find there this one light of consciousness that is like a steady lamp on a windless place, burning without smoke forever. And which essential nature is the Shabda Brahmani, the endless sound, that is like a rushing river without beginning and without end. And that is the door to eternal life and to forgiveness and to the place beyond causality. So this is the heart. What else can we say about the heart? Maybe we shouldn't say more about it, except it is the most important place in you because it is you. In a very, very profound manner. It is the place between above and between below, and this is why I symbolized through two triangles, the one pointing down and the other pointing up. But somehow the 6 spokes of this star, of the Star of David, also symbolize here the 6 dots that signify the element of air. I have to photograph the nice things you're drawing. I really like it. This is so interesting, so beautiful, because through that what a person draws, you can see what the person's mind is like. And when you see what the mind of a person is like, you can find your own mind in the mind of the other person. That's very beautiful. So there are these 2 triangles, and the one triangle is pointing downward, the other triangle is pointing upward. And somehow these 2 triangles symbolize, you could say, the lower triangle and the higher triangle. They symbolize the 3 centers which are below and the 3 centers which are up. One stream of energy, which is hum, flows upward into the higher triangle. The other stream of energy, which is sa, which is the inhalation, flows downward into the lower triangle. The one is materialization, the other is transformation and subtilization. So the one brings you into space and time, the other dissolves you into spaciousness and timelessness. The heart is in the middle, therefore the heart is the mirror. What does the heart mirror? The lower world. But what is the picture in the mirror? The higher world. Or you could say, the higher world is the real world, and the lower world is the picture in the mirror. Which means where we have again this example of the manifestation of the subtle to the gross, and that every universal principle has an expression in the concrete, which means a principal duality that is necessary to bring about life, a dance around the center that is necessary to bring about a specific form, let's say, is symbolized for day and night, or man and woman. But the principle of that you need two things to dance around the center in order to play life is higher than day and night, and is higher than man and woman, because even those two are only an expression of this greater principle. And their manifestation is always incomplete in a certain form. But the principle that life needs to dance around the center through two complementary opposites is universally true. It also dances between the past and the future. You see, life, the present moment is always between the past and the future. So these are also these two complementary opposites, and they are universal. So and here you have it, the higher triangle symbolizes the universal principles, and the lower triangle symbolizes the manifest form of these universal principles. So and the heart itself is divided in two. The heart itself is divided into the universal principle of universal love, and in its manifestation, which is the conditional love of a parent to its kid, or the conditional love between two partners that love each other, which is a manifestation and bound on the condition of that partnership. And if that partnership is broken, the love is broken, because the love is not unconditional. You know, that's really the great thing, at least about brahmachari, you know, about complete sexual abstinence and these kind of things. There is something very great about it. And the great thing about it is that you can really start loving other people without any thought. You can really start fully loving them, because there is no condition anymore, and you don't need any condition anymore. You don't need them to love you, you don't need them to find you attractive, you don't even need to be attractive, you don't need to be anything. If you have a beard, if you're naked, if you're not, it doesn't matter at all. It really doesn't matter. Because you're only here to speak the truth and to love other people. And you do not need the gratification of anyone, you do not need any woman to find you great, and as a woman you do not need to find any man to find you great. You can really just be completely free. Isn't that amazing? You can really live from your unconditional part when you're fully brahmachari. This is the gift of it. Yeah, what can be said about it? But interestingly, it's very secret, you know. Because I think people have to find this out for themselves. You must not teach this to anyone. Starting to teach this to anyone would mean that people manipulate themselves in order to reach it. And if they manipulate, they fail. It must come out of the inside, their natural, spontaneous, intuitive inside. It's very important. I thought about this recently. I thought about that in Tantra or in Yoga, there are two things extremely secret. The one is the sexual ritual in Yoga, and in Tantra, very secret. And the other is chastity, very secret. They're both secret, interestingly. And if you make one of them not secret, you bring about disaster about the people. Isn't that interesting? Because people would think, of course it's secret, you cannot make sex rituals of everybody. Evidently it's secret. But what people do not know is that also the brahmachari part is secret. The chastity part is secret. It's also secret. You're not allowed to teach this, because people are not able to do it. And if they're not able to do it, they shouldn't do it. Only if from the inside a vision emerges, then they can do it. But it must be their own vision. At the same time, the same is true with the sexualized ritual in Tantra. You cannot teach this. Only the accomplished master can do it. It emerges out of himself to do it. So and this is very, very interesting. You know, both of these things are a secret. Anyways, so this is unconditional love. It has absolutely no dependence on absolutely anything. And it's one of the absolute greatest power, because it leads to complete freedom. And this is what sits in the heart. Good. This higher triangle, which is above, is called para, which means supreme, or other would say it's pure, para. And the lower triangle is called apara, which means impure or below. In between, some say there is para, which is the world in between, which is the world of energetic fluctuation, the world of transition between these two, the world of mantras, the energies of mantras, the world of you could say, magic. Okay, this is para, which is twofold. You know, and the goddess Para, Om Sau Para Ye Namaha. She is Para, that's the supreme, the source of everything, of which the lower world is a mirror. So the love between people, between man and woman, between parents and their children, between friends, is the mirror of the one supreme love that is like a rushing river without beginning and without end. Okay? It lays as its very foundation. So this idea of the mirror will come again when we talk about the next chakras, because all the higher chakras are a mirror of the lower ones. And here it gets interesting, you know, because this explains what we're actually doing in yoga. And this also explains what we are actually doing in somehow Kundalini Yoga. Or this explains also what we're doing in our school, you know, where we're using Brahmari and Kabbalabhati a lot and these kind of things. It's very, very interesting. So, then, but before we go to the higher centers, of course, we have to finish the heart very first. So, the heart is now air. It is expansion, it is spiritual transformation, it is the place from which you reach forgiveness. How can the heart be now activated in yoga? Like you have other yoga exercises for the heart. You know, we said, just to remind you, we said, the posture itself is Muladhara. Breathing and dynamic in the posture is Svadhisthana. Focus and duration and also strength, which is connected to duration with focus, is Manipura. What is the heart? Well, devotion, to surrender. The heart is the surrendering in the posture. So you could say the active relaxation in the posture is the heart, or the surrendering in the posture. Or you could say all relaxation that is good is the relaxation from the heart, that is actually surrendering. Why surrendering? Because there is nothing you can do above the heart. You know, there is no you. So the only thing is you can do, surrender to that power that is already there. Surrender to that sound that is already there. What you do in Manipura, the power, the force, the focus, the strength, you cannot do anything in the heart like this. The heart doesn't do. There is nothing to be done because it is more than you. And you are the only one who can act. But the Supreme doesn't act because it is not you. It is. There is no action necessary because it already is fully and complete. Which action would be necessary inside something that is already fully complete? So relax, surrender. This is the heart. You know, think about this. You sit down in the posture. You're there, Muladhara. Just stretch. You feel the posture. Stretch. You breathe. Or feel prana, svadhisthana. You focus. You know, or you hold. I don't know. You know, focus. Straight up. It's Manipura. And then you surrender. Which is the heart. So you see, it's not so much the outer gesture very often, it's also the inner action that are these elements. This is the heart. And then, of course, just like with the other postures, there is, of course, more to it. So there are postures now which are closer connected to the heart than other postures, since they squeeze, stretch, or emphasize anything that has to do with the heart. Which are all openings of the arms, like in Trikonasana, where you have this opening of the arms which are going to the side, you know, Trikonasana, this is the heart. Then all Brahmari has two aspects. Okay, this I didn't name yet. Brahmari has two aspects. Brahmari is Manipura when it is done to paralyze the mind. But Brahmari is also Anahata when it is the one supreme sound. So it has these two aspects, and these two aspects again are also written in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika about Nada Yoga. And why does it has these two aspects? Because the one leads to the other. You cannot fully separate them. You don't want to separate them, simply because the paralyzation or the dissolution of the mind automatically leads into Anahata. It's basically the transformation of Manipura that leads to Anahata. That's why Brahmari has a carrier function. It carries the mind in Anahata. So you could say it transforms Manipura and opens Anahata. So as well as for Manipura and Anahata, you can put Brahmari. Close ears, nose, mouth, eyes, and then you will distinctly hear a clear sound in the Sushumna, in the center of the body, which has been purified previously, of course, by pranayama. Then the bliss of chitta being attained, an ecstasy arises from the cognition of your own soul, of Atman. Then is freed of all faults, pains, old age, disease, hunger, and tiredness. The state of dissolution arising from the inner sound nada creates a spontaneous experience. All yogis who have reached the state of samadhi through this concentration of nada have experienced a bliss in their hearts that surpasses all description and can be known only by God. The silent ascetic, having closed his ears, listens attentively to the sound in his heart until he attains the state of oneness with all. The power of inner sound gradually surpasses all external sounds. Thus the yogi can overcome the weakness of the mind and reach his goal within 15 days. By the sharp goad of nada, the internal sound, the mind that is like an elephant, furious roaming in the garden of the senses, is controlled. When the mind ceases to flicker and is united by fixing on nada, on the sound, it becomes immobile like a wingless bird. So the mind is basically fixed on nada, on the sound, and then travels with the sound to the subtle. And then the mind, I would more say, not becomes immobile like a wingless bird, but I would say the mind falls in love with nada and then just wants to die for it. You see? You can also say it like this. This I think is more closer to the truth, how I experience it. So, the inner sound, nada, is like a trap to capture the gazelle, which is the mind. Like a hunter, it kills the animal, the conceptual thought. The fire that burns a piece of wood dies out when the wood has been consumed. So also the mind, when it remains concentrated on nada and does not search for new fuel, because it is absorbed in the love play with its own nada, gets absorbed in it. When the fourfold mind has been attracted by the sound, like a gazelle is attracted by bells, a skillful archer can hit it with its arrow, which is the yogi itself, that shoots the mind. You know, these are just more brutal examples of what the idea is of nada. So it's like it's paralyzing the mind, and you could say it dissolves it away, or you conquer it. This is the idea. You conquer nada, you conquer the mind, and then you can move into the heart once the mind is conquered. Of course, you have to pierce the mind, because it will always tell you stories. You know, but what is the mind here? I'm just telling you again, you know, it's, the mind is not, the mind, Swami Lakshmi-Chu says, the mind is that what thinks useless thoughts. In other words, you're definitely allowed to think everything you want, but at that moment they become useless, that's the mind. Okay, so don't be afraid of your thoughts, but if they're useless, it's the mind. I also believe, you know, when to some degree you have a certain emotional and mental freedom and clarity, the thoughts become useful. And that is then not the mind anymore. It's your reflexive reaction in relationship to your needs and to reality, which always need to exist. But mind is per definition that what thinks useless thoughts. Finish, that's all. Okay? So whenever the thoughts are useless, you know you're in the mind. And whenever you think they're useful, well then, maybe it's not the mind, maybe you have just a very useful thought. That's all. Okay, so, good. So much to this. So, Brahmari, you know, Brahmari in the heart, you know how it works, you know. Or with Samukhi Mudra, you know how he describes here, you know, closing the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears. Or in other forms, very nice titles. This is also the heart, somehow, you know. Also this is exercise for the heart. And then I also have Prana Mudra for the heart, which I show you soon. And there is also, you know, like heart opening, the hands or arms opening exercises. And there is also, which I personally think is really hard, it's Ananda Madhirasana, which I think somebody of you tried to do last time but did it not correctly. So I will tell you, like Ananda Madhirasana is an opening of the chest. It works like this, you know, you're not holding your feet or something from the outside, but you're actually taking your hands, you're putting them inside, and you're putting at the inside of your feet, like this. You're holding your foot like that, on both sides. You did?
I try to, I just read it, I try to understand, but I don't
Then
know.
you're like this.
Okay.
The thumbs can be at the palms, at the, I don't know how to say this, below your foot. So, and then you come forward. And then you see that you cannot get forward. Because usually having a normal anatomy, and my anatomy is quite normal, which means when you go forward, then your hands stop your upper body.
Where are
See, they're fixed.
Where are your thumbs?
I can't turn around.
Can I take them?
You know, I tried to elevate since I'm a yogi, but
Yeah. Okay.
so you're here, and then you're coming to the front. And when you do that, pull Mula Bandha. And that's the pose of intoxicated bliss. And it's intoxicated bliss because you see the chest is forced open. Lean forward till it is vertical. So the chest is wide open. You bring the chin in, you pull Mula Bandha, you breathe. inhalation, exhalation. Try. And here you have prominent position of the heart, so you can feel your heart. When you pull Mula Bandha, you can see you bring the energy up, and the heart is prominent. It is in the forefront of your body. It rises from the heart and into the heart, and from the top of your head to the sky. This is Ananda Madhyarasana. So the variation of Brahmari, where you make the sound of both inhalation and exhalation, of course, has to be practiced a little bit. But if you practice this quite well, it can work quite well. You have to find your sound. I also, every time I do it, I have to find my sound, because the strings, they are not used to do it. So, but by doing it a few times, suddenly you find the sound again, and then you can sink into it. Now I also would have needed more time to find the sound. But it's very nice when you do it for a while, and suddenly you're into the sound, then you can very, very beautiful continuous flow of sound through inhalation and exhalation. There is also the way it is explained, by the way, in Hatha Yoga Pratipika, that the inhalation is like the sound of a male bee and the exhalation is like the sound of a female bee. By the way, the author maybe didn't know exactly how a male bee sounds like, because the truth is that the male bee sounds much lower than the female bee. It has a deeper sound, but I really wonder how to make a deeper sound with the, I don't know. Usually, a female bee sounds like This is in reality the sound of a female bee, at least in Central Europe. And the sound of a male bee is It's a different sound. I know it because I have bees, that's why. And I hear the drones, the male bees, every time they're out, you hear them. So, they have different sounds. So I didn't figure out yet how to make the sound lower when I breathe. This is a different science, obviously. So good. Then we have Prana Mudra. Look, Prana Mudra, we had this already. You would sit in your favorite sitting posture. And then you would breathe in. And you stretch. And out. So, Prana Mudra is a very beautiful gesture, and it works the best in my personal experience if the breath is held a little bit equally long outside as it is held inside. Some people would put the hands facing downwards when they exhale. I would say you can go back to Bhairavi Mudra as long as your attention, Bhairava Mudra, as long as your attention goes back to Muladhara. The attention flows from the base till full expansion and back. And you hold outside equally like you hold inside, outside. You must hold these two extremes equalized. This also means you're not breathing faster in than you breathe out. Inhalation and exhalation are equalized. Samana, equalized. Samavritti, equal length, but there's samana prana, so equalized in energy. So, and through this equalization, you can feel the strength in it. Otherwise, you can also exhaust yourself, because you're very open. It's a gesture of openness, so it can be exhausting. So the thing is, you have to equalize and keep the in and exhalation the same length. Hold it in the center. Also the out breath, hold when you breathe out. Very good. So there are for sure many more asanas one can assign to Anahata chakra, but I think it's not important to get lost in this. So open your heart and all the heart openings and hand openings and whatever we have, this is for Anahata, and maybe also the shoulder openings and all of these kind of things. Good. Then we have as the next stage here in this energetic process of unfoldment in which the goddess Kupchika unfolds herself, because she unfolds herself. And the last city in which she unfolds her energy is Uddiyana, which is the place above. Okay, this is the city of Uddiyana, and the city of Uddiyana. It's not, by the way, it's not the equivalent of Manipura chakra, whereas Uddiyana Bandha, because it's just the upward moving Bandha, that's why it's Uddiyana. But the city of Uddiyana is Vishuddha chakra. Okay, because the city above. So and Vishuddha is above. What is above? We had it before. Above is the sky. You see, the heart is the place from which you ascend from the limited to the unlimited, the place of forgiveness, the place to let go, to start new, the place where you can ascend through from the lower to the higher, and then once you reach the higher, you reach the place above. That place above is open like the sky, it is spacious, it is expansion, and of course it is pure, because it is purified. It is purified by which means? By means of the heart. The heart has the power to purify because it has the power to forgive. It has the power to purify truly. Manipura has the power to dominate, but the heart has the power to purify in that sense of that it can let really go of the chains of cause and effect that bring about always new fruits, always new samskaras, always new suffering. So the sky, the sky is blue, that's why they say the Vishuddha chakra is blue. The thing is that in the traditional sources, it is of course always grey and white and with a purplish hue. Let's just read the Chakra Nirupana and then let's continue, okay, as our foundation. In the throat is a lotus called vishuddha, the pure one, which is pure and of a smoky purple hue. All the 16 shining vowels on its 60 petals of a crimson hue are distinctly visible to him whose mind is being illumined. In the pericarp of this lotus, there is the eternal region, circular in shape and white like the full moon. The eternal region is the region of Akasha, of space. And it's white like the full moon. You know, it's not the full moon. It is space. You know, space is this circular shape that is, it's the symbol for space. On an elephant white as snow is seated the bija hum of Ahambara, of the eternal region, which is Akasha, who is white of color. Then he describes the presiding deity. His 4 arms hold the noose and the goat, and the other 2 make gestures of granting boons and dispelling fear, and so on. So, purer than the ocean of nectar is the Shakti, Sakini, who dwells in this lotus. Her raiment is yellow, and her 4 lotus hands she carries the bow, the arrow, the noose, and the goat. The whole region of the moon, without the mark of the hara in its pericarp of this lotus. This region is the gateway of great liberation for him who desires the wealth of yoga and whose senses are pure and controlled. He who has attained complete knowledge of the Atma, of the individual soul, becomes, by constantly concentrating his mind on this lotus, a great sage, eloquent and wise, and enjoys uninterrupted peace of mind. He sees the 3 periods and becomes the benefactor of all, free from disease and sorrow and long-lived, and like Hamsa, the destroyer of endless dangers. Okay. There is not so much in here about Vishuddha. Maybe the author himself didn't know so much about it. But what is here is, it is purity. And it is purer than the ocean of nectar. It is the region of Akasha, of space. And all the animals are here which represent space, which is the white elephant, white as snow. Okay? It is circular, which is the symbol of space. It is Vishuddhi is visible for those people whose intellect has been purified. He enjoys uninterrupted peace of minds. He who has attained complete knowledge of the soul becomes, by constantly concentrating his mind on this lotus, a great sage, eloquent and wise, and enjoys uninterrupted peace of mind. So, it is not like that not concentrating of any of the other chakras wouldn't lead you to mastery, because having the power to concentrate on any of the centers and therefore piercing them with the power of your concentration, with the power of your determination, leads you to mastery. But the stage of mastery itself, in a way, lays in Vishuddha. It lays there where you are purified from the things that stand in between you and your fulfillment. And first, you must attain knowledge of Atma. That's what he says. What is the knowledge of Atma? It is the knowledge of your heart. So first you must attain knowledge of your heart. And then, when you're purified through this knowledge of Atma, which is somehow Brahman in a universal form, then, and the mind is concentrated on this great lotus, then you enjoy uninterrupted peace of mind. What is the mind? Manipura, you enjoy peace of mind, peace of Manipura, through the concentration on vishuddha. These two are connected. It is also the case, okay, that it is written here, that she is like the ocean of nectar. You see, vishuddha is said to be that place that's more, maybe something that can only be understood mythological or like visionary somehow. It is that place from which you drink the one universal nectar. So the place of your mastery is that place in which you're able to drink your own eternal being, which means to consume or which means to enjoy your eternal being. In contrast, you cannot enjoy your eternal being when you are individual mind, possessed by individual desires, driven by individual goals. Then you cannot enjoy your universal being. But your universal being you can enjoy in a state of peace of mind where you see the sky above. Where you're pierced through the heavenly, rainy, the heavenly laden, rainy clouds, the way it is depicted of Manipura. So Vishuddha is the supreme Manipura, and going through it, or experiencing Vishuddha means to experience peace of mind. And this peace of mind gives you the ability to enjoy your being the way it is in its fullness. Because somehow, we all know that. We all know that if we would have a moment of complete peace of being, we could enjoy our existence with absolute pleasure. Because the truth is that our existence is complete pleasure. Being is a complete gift. Any moment in which you are allowed to breathe, to be, is absolute ecstasy. No, isn't it the case? For me it seems to be clear, but this is something you can only experience. Somehow it is clear for me that being is beautiful. And if you're allowed to really experience your friendship and experience your children and experience everything, whatever it is, and not only the beautiful things but also the ugly things, like from a certain outside, they're very interesting, all of them, and I think that it's just beautiful. And it is your concepts and your attachment to your experience that makes these experiences that you have hell. Instead, they could be heaven. So this is Vishuddha. Vishuddha is the ability to taste their nectar. And this nectar can be tasted from the perspective of mastery. And mastery is achieved, that's what it says about you. Mastery is achieved by walking through the heart, therefore reaching purity, and so it is mastered. And here it gets very interesting. What is mastered? Master over what? Now you could say mastery always means something. When I'm a carpenter master, then I'm master over carpentry. So I'm a master over tables and chairs. When I'm a master in construction, Baumeister, it's a German word for it, then I'm a master over walls and steel, so I can build a building. I'm its master. What is the master here? What do you have mastery about? Well, it's mastery over Manipura. But Manipura itself wants to have mastery, because Manipura wants to dominate. So what does Manipura dominate? Manipura dominates the world. But Manipura is no master, because Manipura still suffers. Manipura may be the carpenter master or the construction man master, but it doesn't have mastery over its existence as such, because it is still in pain with life. Manipura may dominate the enemy and then afterwards die from cancer. And be dominated by something else and be not happy. So Vishuddha in this context is mastery not over something particular in the world but over the self. Because Manipura is the mind which creates the self, the sense of ego and so on, or the mind actually emerges from the ego, but anyways, it's Antakarana, it belongs to the same group. So Manipura masters this chitta, vishuddha masters chitta, this mind, and therefore masters the self. And when the self is mastered, life is mastered, and then the world is really mastered. And everything that you have inside the world somehow becomes easy when you have mastered vishuddha. So, you can say it very practically. All the goals that you have in life, all the things you want to dominate and to conquer, you may dominate and conquer them, but you should aim for conquering the self. Furthermore, conquering the self by means of the heart, by moving through the heart, allows you to conquer the world also, but with ease. And further, you conquer only the things which are really necessary to conquer. So those which are the wishes of your soul, in your heart. And the first thing you conquer is the self. Of course, it's the biggest enemy of all. You can slay all the enemies. If you do not slay the self, it still tortures you. Release, relax yourself. Okay, so vishuddha is mastery. It is also said, that Kundalini, when she rises, they say she resides for a time in vishuddha. There are all kinds of such mysticisms. Maybe this just wants to say that this is the place from where you as a person reach complete. You are complete. You become complete as a person. Because the other centers that are above vishuddha are mystical, but here you become complete. Of course, it is the fifth element. It is the element of akashai, of ether. Or akasha. And the fifth element, the world is comprised of the five elements. So because the world is comprised of them, you have mastery over the world. Because we said already that with piercing one of the chakras means to master the limitation that is given by the specific element. So opening vishuddha somehow, or rising into vishuddha, would mean to master the world that is comprised of five elements, because you mastered the fifth element, and therefore all the world, everything that is within the world. So it is a very special place. Very, very, very special place. and the place where you drink the nectar. So there are all kinds of yogic exercises where you would emphasize drinking this nectar. There is actually an inverted posture called Viparita Karani Mudra, that's the gesture, and Viparita Karani Asana, that's the posture, in which you would stand upside down in order to drink the nectar dropping from above, and to prevent it from falling into Manipura to be consumed by the sun there. Because you see also here the connection between Manipura and vishuddha is emphasized. The connection insofar as that the nectar that drops from above can always be consumed in your complete being that has mastery over the world if it is not robbed and destroyed by Manipura, which is the fire of the ego, the fire of the individual mind. So in this inverted posture, you would actually aim for and meditate on directly consuming that nectar, that true existence from above through vishuddha alone, and saving it from the hungry mouth of Manipura. But apart from doing such an exercise, you can just understand for yourself that you must make your mind silent and let your ego go and go through your heart so that you can rest in a certain form of mastery and enjoy uninterrupted peace of mind, which is in a way the nectar that drops from above. Or when you meditate over the nectar that drops from above, then imagine yourself of being purified through the heart so you can just enjoy that nectar that drops from above. Okay, so which asanas now? Further also, there is no balanced or imbalanced state of these kind of chakras, okay? According at least to what I got taught. I can only give you what I got taught because they are just perfect. The question is if you can open them, to which we come next. The question is not so much if they're polluted because they're not open. The question is if you can open them because they're para. What is para? Is pure. Vishuddha is pure. How exactly should it be impure? It is pure by nature. There is no impurity in Vishuddha. Vishuddha is either active or it is not. So the asanas. You see, since it is not in the range of your individual action, actually, there is no gesture you could do for yourself to activate Vishuddha. You know, for the heart you can surrender. What else can you do except surrender? Of course you can't do nothing. See, it's supreme, you know, it's supreme to surrendering. What exactly supreme to surrendering? Well, there is nothing anymore. It's like going through the rabbit's hole or walking through the chrysanthemum. There is nothing behind. And something else behind, the mind beyond mind. Manomani is behind. So, good. Still in Hatha Yoga, we would say that of course some exercises, since they squeeze or scratch that area, are good for this. But also because they bring the prana there, and because they change and manipulate the flow of prana in the body in a certain manner, so that this area of your body can be opened and you may have be able to have an experience of this in this area of your body. As you may have guessed, all postures that activate your neck, which are halasana, the plow pose, which you did this morning. Here I remember very important. I really wanted to tell you something to the plow pose, which you really shouldn't do. Yeah, when you are in halasana here, okay. Yeah, when you're in halasana, let's say you're here, then you do not, from the posture, okay, you do not bring your arms just like this, and then you go up. Okay, like that. But what you do instead is, you must first step by step, when you're behind here, release the posture. Then you must bring your arms up with the palms facing out, so to protect your neck with the shoulders. And then once the neck is protected, you can bring them, like according to your own speed, whatever you desire, gently over your head. This is important because, you see, for young people, nothing matters. Nothing. But for old people, or for unstable people, or for sick people, or for people with half-broken backs, or for not strong people, or for very obese people, or for extremely starved people, all kinds of people, for these kind of people, it may be a problem if they lose a stable position without having protected their necks. They may roll to the side or fall to the side or something. So you must first bring the hands to the position of stability, which is above your head, and then in which manner you may ever go into halasana. There are for sure variations where you keep the legs bent to the chest, okay? So then bring your back up, then stretch them, or variations of. You bring the legs up 90 degrees. Depending on the strength of your body, okay? This is like strength dependent. But you must bring the arms up first, because so that the upper arm, being beside your head, can protect your neck.
So we should not move the hands or the arms when the legs are up?
Yes.
Okay.
This is correct.
Okay.
Completely correct. This is also true for Shavangasana, for the shoulder stand, these kind of things. You bring first the hands in the position, you bring the upper body up, but without stretching the hands, then you bring the hands inside, and then you stretch. You see, the hands must find the position first.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, in halasana. So, but we see now, this halasana is now for vishuddha. They say. So anyways, it's in my personal opinion, if you concentrate on it, everything is for vishuddha. When you stand the three pose, concentrate on vishuddha, your spaciousness, it's for vishuddha. Okay? So, halasana, shavangasana, inverted posture, also for vishuddha. Okay, then headstand, also for vishuddha. Handstand, also for vishuddha. Everything for vishuddha. Shavasana, of course, also for vishuddha. Neck rotations, bends, sidewards, forwards, everything vishuddha. So, and here comes the most important thing. Ujjayi pranayama. Okay, maybe you could say a little bit of sitali pranayama could also be ujjayi, could also be for vishuddha, but ujjayi pranayama is more intimately connected to the, for several reasons, to what is vishuddha. First of all, the sound itself is made there where vishuddha is, throat width and behind in the neck of ujjayi. Secondly, it is the subtle body. It should make you more subtle. It should connect you to the subtle dimension. In Ashtanga Yoga, they say it's here to help you regulate the temperature of the body, but actually, I think that it's here to connect you to the subtle dimension within the exercise. Because the yoga of Krishnamacharya, and therefore also the yoga of Pattabhi choice, is a little gross in its appearance. And it needs elements which connect the practitioner and the practice to the subtle. and Ujjayi Pranayama is doing this. So it makes you feel like a ghost, let's say, in a very profound sense, but it connects you somehow that what is spacious, that what is outside of you, that what is unmanifest. And there is a pranayama which is, or a kriya, you could say, gesture, action, which is, or something to awaken the power of action correctly, yeah, a kriya. This would be vishuddha suddhi. And vishuddha suddhi is the purification of vishuddha, which is basically Ujjayi Pranayama with a certain visualization. Okay? And in my opinion, this is one of the greatest things one can do. That's why, sit up. Let's do it. Put your hands in front of your heart. Bring your hands in your lap. Bharava Mudra, just one hand onto the other. Imagine in your throat a big silvery disc shining beautifully, full of light. Very beautiful. Around it a beautiful lotus of 16 petals, radiant, stainless, with a purple hue. Like the space. Above it, the sky. The sky with the stars. Beautiful. that silvery disc inside your throat is radiating strongly, beautiful and intensely. When you breathe in from the spaciousness around you, you breathe in the center of the silvery disc. And when you breathe out, you breathe directly from your throat, from the center of this disc, in the spaciousness around you. And you expand in spaciousness. And when you breathe in, you contract from the space, and like a luminous line of silvery light, the light enters through your throat pit again into your throat and collects in this shiny, beautiful silvery disc that is radiant like the full moon and beautiful like the full moon. And you breathe with Ujjayi strongly and deeply, and you feel the space. You feel that beautiful space. Be open. Smile, be open. Feel that beautiful space. Feel that beautiful space. Radiating from your throat. Feel that beautiful space.